All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. It is Brian Hines from Pats Pulpit, back with Alex Barth from 98.5 The Sports Hub. Second straight day with the show here, and we got all the kind of busy stuff out of the way yesterday with the coaching staff, with the roster moves, with the retirements. So if you didn't check all that out and get summarized on all that, make sure you go to the Patriots Beat or Patriots CLNS YouTube page to watch that episode. And now it is on to the fun stuff because it is mock draft season. The combine is next week. So we are going to have mock draft 1.0 right here on Pats Beat Live. We're going to walk it through all 7 picks, all 7 rounds, maybe more or less than 7 picks. We'll see how it kind of shakes up here, but we can go right to the PFF simulator. And we are kind of on the clock here as we want to kick this thing off.
Yeah, so as you guys know, and just a couple reminders since we haven't done one of these in a minute. First off, some of them we go into with like a plan or with a goal. So like we'll do one at some point where we say, all right, we're not taking a quarterback in the top 100, right? We'll call it the Mac Jones draft or whatever. Or we're saying like, all right, we're going to like trade like this. We're specifically going in trading down, even if Caleb is there at 3, like for the point, this is a learning exercise. The point is to get an idea of what players will be on the board at what points. This is actually maybe not exactly like this, like with the PFF simulator, but this is something NFL teams do and the Patriots do leading up to the draft. I don't think they're doing it this early, but in the weeks leading up to the draft, they get the main decision makers in a room. They have other people playing other teams, and they run through the board and they say, okay, if we get to this pick and these guys are here, or if we get this call about this kind of trade, and they run through all these scenarios. So there is actual like tangible relevance to what we're doing here. That being said, some things you guys will remember. So we started off Caleb Williams, Drake May makes sense. We do respect the board, which is, you know, PFS mock simulator is weird. Me and Brian did a dry run last night off the air, and Jane Daniels was there at 34.
That's not going to happen.
We're not going to pick him at 34 as good as it will look. Sometimes we do one not respecting the board draft like super late just for fun, but meanwhile, last year I bitched and moaned about Christian Gonzalez not respecting the board at 14, and they got him at 17. So who knows?
And then there he was.
Right. So we do respect the board in that sense. So we'll go through the picks. We'll kind of discuss each one before. We'll make the pick. We'll discuss after. Brian's going to keep. I'm running the board. Brian's going to keep tabs of the picks. So we'll try to reference back to this as much as possible in terms of who we've taken, what trades we've made. If you're joining late and you aren't caught up, if you put in the chat, if you remind me if I'm not going to that enough, we can go to that. But I think that's enough setup. I think that's everything covered. Brian's got to put up with me for the first time with this. So, you know, Evan did this with me. Mike did this with me. You're up now. You're up for the challenge. We start here. And I think there's a conversation right off the bat because who's going second is a big part of this. Drake May or Jay Daniels. Now, in the simulation we have here, Drake May went second. Brian, do you think that there's enough of a belief in both of those guys in the building that this pick is a quarterback regardless of who goes second?
So if it's down to Jaden Daniels or Drake May, whichever one doesn't go second?
Yeah, let's say Marvin Harrison Jr. goes second.
Okay.
For whatever reason.
I think, if Chicago hangs on to... did we just lose Alex there? Uh-oh. Technical difficulties on draft night. Let's see what's going on here. Taylor, we might have to call you in from the chat. Uh-oh. Hang with us all. He's back. Oh, and he's gone.
Yeah, no, I'm back. They don't want me making the pick. Fine. I don't know what that was. Of course, this is the show. Hang on. Let me share the draft board again. We're off and running, folks.
Let's hope that doesn't happen to the Patriots and they don't get the pick in on time.
Seriously. All right, so that should be good. There we go. All right. So sorry, we were saying.
Okay. If like something happens and Chicago keeps Justin Fields and Marvin Harrison, or maybe Cliff loves Sam Howell or something, and it comes down, and you have both Drake May and Jaden Daniels on the board at 3. I think at least the New England regime. I think one of them, they'll like one of them enough to be convinced if they're both there and they have the option at both of them. So yeah, I would expect a quarterback if they're both still on the board.
Okay, so we're sitting here in the draft room. And again, our job is to do, we're not doing what we would do. We might do one of those mocks, but the goal of this is to project what the Patriots will do.
If it was to us, it'd be Tory Taylor, Iowa.
Exactly. Are the Patriots happy with this outcome? Has the board fallen their way, or do you think they would have rather had Drake May?
I think with Van Pelt's offense, Drake May is kind of a better fit, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's who he kind of prefers, and maybe who Ben McAdoo even prefers. But I could see them kind of getting excited about Jaden Daniels as well. Definitely throughout this process, he should. I don't know if we know if he's running at the combine, but if he does, he should have a really good performance there. So I could see them, getting their hopes up for Jaden Daniels as well. But where we're sitting at now, I think Drake May would be their preference at that quarterback spot.
Yes, the one thing I will say, and I'm with you, but after yesterday and Van Pelt talking about the flexibility of what he wants to do, I look at it and I have my big board up on 985sportsup.com. I have Drake May as QB2 in this draft. And if Van Pelt's really willing to be as flexible as he says he is, they end up with the better quarterback here. Now, I don't think it's necessarily by a wide margin, and I think it's a margin that could be covered by May being a better scheme fit. But I think ultimately you end up with a better quarterback if Drake May falls to 3. Personally, That's how I feel. We would not be doing our job if we didn't discuss the other possibilities. So we have Joe Alt and Marvin Harrison Jr. sitting on the board. The only offers we have to move down are for picks 11 and 30. So we're not doing either of those. We're sitting here. But just your thoughts on Harrison and Alt kind of as we sit here in this position.
So I'm still on. I don't think this pick makes sense for a wide receiver. And as good as, Marvin Harrison is, I just don't think that's the piece right now to add to this roster and build it that way. And even I prefer building it through the offensive line in the trenches than a wide receiver, but even sitting at 3, I don't know if that would be worth taking a tackle at that spot. So if you don't believe in one of these quarterbacks and you want to go receiver or tackle, that's when I would really entertain a trade down. Whether Daniel Jeremiah, he had his press conference today and he talked about some of these trade down possibilities, moving down from 3 to 6 with the Giants if they want to move up and maybe get Marvin Harrison. He said you could get that 6 pick and 3 second rounders if you want to move back the board even farther to. We were looking at 11 there. We had an offer, but he said the Raiders at 13, you'd get 13, 2 extra first round picks and an extra third round pick in the future. So that's a lot. And then you could still be in a good range to get a tackle or maybe a Malik Neighbors or a Roma Dunze. So if you're not going quarterback, I think that's my preference there. For as good as Marvin Harrison is, and maybe at 6 you could still get a Joe Alt or an Olu Fashanu anyway. So
we never established who has final say, but it might be the chat. It might end up being the chat. Do we want it for our first mock? Do we want to take Jaden Daniels at 3 or do we want to trade down?
I say we take Jaden Daniels for now.
All right. So Jaden Daniels is the pick at 3. And then I'm going to pause it real quick for a couple of reasons. So we're just going to say, all right, Marvin Harrison Jr. went 4. Tell us about Jaden Daniels real quick. And then we're going to go from there. You're typing. I'll do the Jaden Daniels thing. So for people who don't know, Jaden Daniels, Heisman winner, hyper athletic quarterback, put up 5,000 combined yards last year, including 1,300 on the ground, 55 combined touchdowns. He is not purely a runner. I think that's the biggest mistake. He has developed monumentally as a passer, especially as a deep passer. Now, he's stronger outside the numbers than he is to the middle of the field, which to me is the big break with him in May in terms of the fit for the Patriots system. But he's also proven to be a very fast learner. The biggest knocks on him are going to be his size. He needs to put on some weight. He's 6'4", 210, 215, depending on where you look. And he needs to take better care of himself. He is reckless as a runner. He needs to slide. He needs to go out of bounds, things like that. but this is a guy that is a tremendous runner, not just at the college level. His rushing ability projects to translate to the NFL. He ran all over SEC defenses, Alabama, Florida, and he is a big play thrower. He's not so much going to dink and dunk. If you want a dink and dunk offense, he may not be the guy. But if you pair him with an explosive receiver, and that's part of what's so tough about doing this now and why we'll do most of our mocks after free agencies when we have the better picture, and maybe we make a trade coming up here, Brian, or do something like that. You pair him with a big play receiver, and now you're talking about a truly explosive offense, or building the early stages of a truly explosive offense. Anything you want to add to that? Or
Yeah, I mean, it's either him or Michael Penix, I'd say, for the best deep ball thrower in this class, right? And obviously he's just dynamite with his legs. That's such an enticing option to have in your offense. But he did make good strides as a thrower. There were still times where maybe there's a guy running over the middle of the field that's a second or third read, and he might tuck it and opt to run, which that might not always work. He might not always. Where in college, he's breaking that for, 50, 60-yard touchdown, and you're saying, oh, whatever, who cares? But that might not work in the NFL. So, and obviously he's got to protect himself, right? People compare him to like Willie Coyote, where he's just running around and taking all these...
Willie Coyote?
What?
Wiley Coyote.
Sorry.
Man, you're making me feel old. That was like my favorite cartoon character growing up.
But yeah, like that's one of the big things. He's got to kind of protect himself, and we'll see if he puts on some size. But is a really good passer, especially the deep ball, has some good mechanics. So I think that's a good pick at 3.
All right, so why don't we hear from our friends at FanDuel, and then we'll move forward in the draft.
Pulling that up, hold on.
Yeah, it's not so easy, is it, when it gets thrown at you at the last second?
Get your buckets with your first bet at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams, quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/Boston and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
So we have a couple options here.
Yep.
And the reason I have it paused is because you can't, in PFF, if you're listening, let me sim to a pick. Let me sim to pick 20. Let me sim to pick 18. Like, let me pick where I want to go. You also can't see, let me see who's still available instead of just having to keep track of it in my head over here. So the reason I have it paused is, do we want to go to 34 or do we want to trade up? Do we want to trade up into the back end of the first round, maybe find a tackle or a wide receiver, and we can kind of let it play and maybe see where guys fall? The other thing I'd say, when we get to 34, do we want to trade down? Or I talked about pairing T. Higgins with a big play wide receiver. Do we want to trade 34 for T. Higgins, which is the reported asking price according to The Athletic, and then a later pick?
So what's really been kind of enticing to me, and I think you might have even had this in your one of your mocks, is trading down from 34, because I know it's enticing to go up and get a tackle, but they only have 7 picks in this draft where it stands right now, and you want to try to plug as many of these holes as possible. So if you can move back, it's tough to move back from 3 if you're picking the quarterback. So if you look at 34 and say if you can move back maybe 5 or 6 picks there, get another top 100 pick and try to plug some holes that way. It's tough. You hope the tackle run doesn't, go past you and you miss out. So it's a little bit of a risk there, but I'm down to maybe go to 34 and see if you can move down if there's a couple tackles there, if you don't think there's one that you need to take right there.
All right, so we're just jumping right down to 34. That's the plan?
Go for it.
All right, here we go. And we'll go back up and look at some of these picks here when it wraps up. So other notable guys. So Neighbors went back-to-back with Harrison, Brock Bowers to the Giants, Joe Alt to the Titans. These all make a ton of sense. That's a bad pick. Cooper DeJean to the Falcons.
They have him really high in this simulator.
Yeah. Olufashanu, that's a switch. They don't really need a tackle, but this is where
put JJ McCarthy in for 8.
Oh, PFF, if you're listening, let other teams trade with each other. Because this is a situation where somebody's going to move up Maybe if they're thinking like we're so fine, we can take Cooper DeJean, somebody's going to move up and take Olufoshanu there, or maybe even at 6 with the Giants. So early run on tackles. Fuaga goes in the top 10. Roma Dunze falls all the way to 14.
Wow.
I think somebody would trade up and grab him at that point.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy at 15 as a D. He's not even the best defensive tackle from Texas. Tavondre Sweat, and Tavondre Sweat might be a first round pick. He's not going 15th.
Brian Thomas in the 20s.
Brian Thomas goes to 20. That whole thing. Brian Thomas at 20 to the Steelers. That all just makes a ton of sense to me.
Vlad McConkey, 23.
Oh, get out of here, PF. What did I have these settings on? Jesus. Hang on. Now I'm curious. We may have to restart this if I screwed up the settings to be too unrealistic, because it's going to annoy me. PFF is not respecting its own board.
They have McConkey pretty high in this. They have him ranked like
I have randomness like way down.
Yeah, they have McConkey like 36th in
Stupid.
like
Who did he go over?
38 range.
All right, so
Mitchell. All right.
There you want to trade down, but here's what I would say. So let's look at Chris Braswell at wide receiver. Keon Coleman's still here. Xavier Worthy's still here. I'm not surprised Roman Wilson is still here, but like Roman Wilson, Jalen, there's so much wide receiver talent on the board right now. We are not missing out if we move back a little bit for receiver. At tackle, it's a little thinner. Suamati is still here. Jordan Morgan, who I don't love. Patrick Paul, but like we can move back a little bit and we'll have options. So we can trade with other teams, but I like to keep it realistic to just be like, okay, let's see who's calling. We've got Washington at 36. We've got Tennessee at 38, but they don't have a third round pick. Something to keep in mind. And neither do the Saints, who are calling at 45. 36 doesn't feel like we're moving back a ton, though, does it?
Yeah, not really.
So, I mean, who else do we... Well, okay, but Washington also has 40.
Could you do 40 and like 10 or 67 too aggressive? I was trying to just pull up the trade value chart really quickly.
Yeah, see if you can pull that up. Yeah, it might be too close. 34 and 40 might be too close. I think this... So you're moving down 6 spots.
40. And what was the other pick? 101?
101, yeah.
That's 30. Yeah, that one's pretty even. 34 for 40 and 101.
34 for 40. Are we overpaying or underpaying?
They're overpaying.
Okay. How much?
You're making me do math.
Oh, I thought you did it. I'm sorry. I thought you did it.
I was just eyeballing it.
Okay.
It's like 170. It's like 170.
By the way, we always do. This is what we do. We do the math on the air. We make people suffer through this.
It's like 170. Oh, it's 175, 174 us, actually. We're 175, if my math is correct.
Okay, so they should overpay a little bit more. So throwing on a future fourth, I think, is realistic. And we add some future assets now, which is people who watch this know I'm a big proponent of. I think adding I always want to come out of the draft with more picks than I had. And that can mean current, future, whatever. So we'll throw on a future fourth there and we'll see if this, so you like this? You like this setup?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
All right, cool.
There
and
we go.
All right. So we'll run down a little bit, and none of the tackles went, and only Keon Coleman went to wide receiver. So we're still in great shape.
Perfect.
And Bo Nix is still on the board. JJ McCarthy, the Giants at 39. That makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah.
This is gross because you just Keon Coleman to the Chargers.
That's just Quentin Johnson.
Right. You just made that. And didn't they also take PFF's hammered drunk on a Thursday night? Shout out to them. So they're just giving Justin Herbert everything.
Stacking the receivers, which is so like anti-Harbaugh too. It's like
right. Well, you're going to have to cut all their defense. We're just going to take all the receivers. Shout out to the Chargers. Hammered drunk.
So I'm going tackle here. Or, I mean, Jatavian Sanders is kind of enticing.
So this is what always happens. I end up just doing my mock draft on these shows. Jatavian Sanders is enticing, but we wanted to move back for a tackle. We're not going to have another shot at a potential day one or year one tackle. These guys might not be day one, but they're year one. So we got Jordan Morgan. We got Sumatia. We got Patrick Paul. I don't know if you like Blake Fisher or the guy from Yale whose name I can't pronounce, but does anybody here in particular stand out to you?
So Jordan Morgan is interesting. He's kind of on the smaller side, right?
Yeah, he's got. They're worried his arms are going to check in short.
Yeah, so that's a big thing to watch at the combine. Sumatua, he's kind of really athletic. I like his build, but Patrick Paul, too, like tons of experience, just a huge type of body, which they have familiarity with these Cleveland guys and DeJuan Jones. So I'd be between him and Sumatua. Those would probably be my two preferences. I don't know if you prefer one or the other.
I am too. So this is where, again, somebody needs to have final say. Do we go to the chat for final say?
Sure, let's go to the chat.
All right, so you can't tell us to do anything else with the pick. Suamatia or Jordan Morgan, whoever gets 5 replies first, that's who we'll take.
The chat is Elliot Wolf.
Now, yes, the chat has final say. The chat is the GM. GM chat. We were between Jordan Morgan, the two guys you see on your screen right there. Oh, no. We said no Morgan. It was Paul or Suamatia, right?
Kingsley or Paul, yeah.
All right, so we've got – all right, I got to go back. So we had Patrick Paul 1, Kingsley 1, Kingsley 2, Kingsley 3, 3-2 Kingsley, 3-3 for all. That was close. That was close, but Suamatia just got it. So thanks to everybody for weighing in. We'll go back. We'll probably, if not this mock draft, like we will end up going back to the chat. We will do more of that. But Suamatia, Brian, tell us about him. And I'll pull up his kind of bio-ish thing here.
So former 5-star recruit, I believe, coming out of high school, played a lot of left tackle. You can see all the snaps.
So he started a full season at right tackle and then a full season at left tackle. Love that.
So,
love that. Plays both
like
sides.
What does it say? 6'4", 300 pounds. So he
6'6", 315.
He earned a spot on the freaks list, the athletics freaks list at the beginning of the year. So just one of these guys with all these kind of, physical tools. He's athletic, which if you're going to this kind of wide zone scheme under Van Pelt, you want one of these guys who can kind of get out there at the tackle spot. So I like you're banking on kind of the traits in the power and the athleticism. So I like that pick. And I think it's a good pick for their kind of scheme fit here.
So one thing I always look at with these guys, you can call me simplistic if you want, how much they get penalized. Because I think that tells you in terms of how clean they are. 4 penalties this year for Suamatia. Only 1 was accepted, and he had 2 in the first game. And then only 2 the rest of the season over the next, whatever it is, 11 games, 12 games. So clean player. I don't want to be dealing with my offensive lineman. If you're called for the false start where you're getting an early jump like everybody does, I don't really care about that thing. But yeah, I think clean. Besides that, I don't want to deal with penalties. So Suamatia is the next pick at 40. And then are we going to 68 or are we going to maybe trade up?
So what's our other pick? 68 and 101?
101. Hang on, let me do this. Because we're not going to trade up within like 5 picks. It just goes so fast. So just Jordan Morgan went the next pick.
Okay.
Interesting. To the Packers, which makes sense.
And they have Jermaine Burton really high too.
I like Jermaine, but I don't know about that high. This is also way too low for Chop Robinson at 45. Behind who? What other? I guess no edge guys. Peyton Wilson in the first round feels like a bit much. They just have all the edge guys so far down. Verse and Turner going in the 20s. Latu going at 19. So they've just devalued all the edge players.
So
basically, which could happen. Which could in a draft that's deep at that position. Sometimes logic is, hey, it's a good draft, so go up and get your guy. Sometimes you get the inverse. This happened last year with tight ends where we have plenty of options. We don't need to rush. We don't need a rush to pick an edge rusher. We don't need a rush to pick, a tight end because we are going to have – it's essentially what we're doing at wide receiver right now. We need a wide receiver, but we looked at the board, and as we sit here, I mean, not that many guys have gone. Like, I think Xavier Worthy's still on the board at this point, and he's not going to get to 68, but the point is Xavier Worthy's still on the board. Roman Wilson's still on the board. There's a ton of talent where we were like, all right, let's get our tackle now because we'll probably be in good shape to get our receiver later on. So do we want to move up from 68? Do we want to pick at 68 is the question. We can maybe sim a little bit and see where we're at.
So if we're going, 68 and 101, we could get right up to about like Dallas is at 56, Tampa's at 57, or Green Bay at 57. So that would be our trade up range.
Oh, but so there were two guys I was thinking, man, if we can get within range. Ooh,
Oh,
we
and
missed the
Roman
run. We missed the run. Jatavian Sanders, Xavier Worthy, Ricky
and
Pearsall,
Ricky
Roman
Pearsall.
Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Do
Maybe
we
we
want to
could.
panic and move up and get our receiver?
This is where I wish we could see the wide receivers that are
I
available.
know. Well, let's work backwards here. Hang on, I'll pull up the big board. So that's where that's tough. We all right. So Xavier Leggett, I believe, is still there. Jalen Polk, Tez Walker, Johnny Wilson, Brendan Rice, the Washington guys, Malachi Corley. We can probably wait on some of these guys still.
Okay, I'm down to wait, and then we have the 2 100 picks.
Okay, so we missed the run. We're gonna keep going. Now, ideally, they'll sign a good wide receiver in free agency too.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll keep going here. Yeah, there goes Jalen Polk. There goes Jalen McMillan.
Jeez.
All right, but we're almost up. And there goes Xavier Leggett. Jeez, these wide receivers. All
And
right,
Thrash, right? Is that Thrash?
Thrash. Yeah. So we've got Tez Walker, Johnny Wilson, Brendan Rice here. Malachi Corley. I would say it drops off after that. I think Cowing's another tier. We also have Cade Stover's on the board, Ben Sinnott's on the board if we want to go tight end. Edge could be a sneaky need at this point. We can probably wait another round on that. What are you thinking?
I'm just looking at the ones you're scrolling through. I'm tempted to go receiver now after. Ooh, is that Kamari Kitchens still on there though?
Yeah.
That
That might be a respecting the board issue.
Yeah, because he's gonna go, you'd imagine, second
He's
round.
good. I think he's a top 50 pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's respecting the board at that point.
Yeah. That one
me see
would
the-
be really intriguing though.
The consensus mock draft website does not, like, nobody has done, a big time mock draft that's taken him anywhere beyond the second round.
Yeah. All right. We'll
So
respect
we might
that
have
board.
we might have missed the boat there. Your first respecting of the board. Good eye though.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling receiver after that whole run. Just make sure you get one you like.
So this is interesting because we've got two, I think, high ceiling, low floor guys and one high floor, low ceiling guy, or Corley if you like Corley. But I just think he's a little redundant I want to get somebody who's a little different than Pop Douglas.
Yeah, I do like Corley, but I get your hesitance there.
Well, if you
Walker,
do you think Corley? If you think Corley's the best pick here, I mean, make your case.
I'd probably be between Corley and Brendan Rice, and this would probably be where it depends on what happens if they make a move at this position in free agency, right? Do you need your big body on the outside, which is more Brendan Rice, or do you have that guy and you can get another one of these Z slot guys and Malachi Corley, who's known for, what's his Instagram handle, like the Yak King or something, or he's all after the catch. So
let me ask you this.
Okay.
Which player reminds you more of Amari Cooper?
Probably Brendan Rice.
I think you've got to get that guy to
with
fit it in Van Pelt's offense, right?
Yep. So who are you? Are you?
And
Brendan
we also,
Rice?
let's remember, we drafted Jaden Daniels. We want a guy that can make plays down the field.
Yep.
Now, Tez Walker and Johnny Wilson, they can both do that, but they both scare me for other reasons. Neither one is consistent. Tez Walker had a lot of issues with drops at the Senior Bowl. He looked out of place at times at UNC. Johnny Walker is just weird. I mean, Johnny Wilson is just kind of weird. You don't really know what he may end up being a tight end.
Yeah.
So do we think Brendan Rice is the best downfield option?
Yeah, I'd probably go Rice definitely over Wilson. And then after Tez Walker's Senior Bowl week, and Brendan Rice was pretty impressive at the Senior Bowl too. So I'd probably have Rice over those two guys on the outside.
Yeah, this is one too. And again, this is why we usually do them later. And we're probably not going to do another mock till after free agency. But you guys are asking for this. This is why, like, the combine and seeing Tez Walker do the on-field drills would be super helpful.
Yep.
Really, all of them, Walker, Wilson, Rice. But I think for now, so we're going Rice. I'd go Brendan Rice here. We probably should trade it up. Yeah, we probably should trade it up. But Brendan Rice, this is where we're at. Brett, we need to add bodies. We can't be moving up too much and burning picks. So we're gonna add Brendan Rice here with the third round pick, and then we'll let it go through to day 4. Tell us about Brendan Rice real quick.
So yeah, big body. I think 6'2", 6'3". Caleb Williams is top target, and it was interesting watching him at the Senior Bowl because day one he's beating all these guys with physicality at the top of the route. He's muscling the football away from guys, and then the next 2 days it's more separation. He's putting his foot in the ground and he's getting separating at the top of the route and stuff like that. And I keep going back to watching him do that, and Daniel Jeremiah was talking about him as Michael Pittman. Like this is that's his comp, Michael Pittman, who's someone we're all obviously interested in free agency. So if they don't again get that big body receiver in free agency or before the draft, I think that would be kind of a good fit for their offense here.
So meanwhile, we still do have one day 2 pick. 101 was the last pick in the 3rd round.
Okay.
But I got to gripe at PFF again because Tavondre Sweat at 90. Cameron Kitchens at 87.
Damn.
There's one other one that Patrick Paul at 80.
Wow.
What are we doing? What are we doing? By the way, the Giants took Kenny Golladay, essentially. So
JJ McCarthy to Tez Walker.
Yeah.
That's their
so
future.
we got a couple of back-to-back picks here. Now there's a couple positions I think and after this we'll hear from our friends, then we'll reset and show you guys what we've done so far. So I think doubling up at offensive tackle here is on the board. I think tight end's on the board here. I think that running back is honestly on the board here. You look at the two-headed monster they had in Cleveland with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They take their running back seriously. You're going to be running the ball a lot. Ramondre Stevenson is in a contract year I don't hate, especially with the bat. And maybe it ends up being the 2nd pick. We're going to kind of look at these 2 picks sort of together. But running back in this range, I don't hit. And I think now is when we seriously start discussing edge players. I think now is when we seriously start talking about maybe adding another pass rusher. So to go through it here, that's too many positions. So I'll just kind of run through. Tight end, we got Cade Stover, who I like for them. Ben Sinnott, Dalen Hooker, we can probably get a little later. Jaheim Bell. We have 136. I would look at those guys in that range. But I think if we want Cade Stover, we take him with one of these 2 picks. Bucky Irving, Marshawn Lloyd, Brandon Allen, I think are all great
He'll be
fits.
gone.
I don't think they'll be gone by this point.
I think I was saying more Braylon Allen. I think he'd be gone by this point.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Now, this is lower end for him, but I don't think it's an unrealistic fall to the end of the 3rd round.
I mean, it's a running back, right? So you never
exactly
really know,
but if you want to say Brendan Allen respecting the board, I mean, I take Marshawn Lloyd over him anyway, personally. So maybe that's irrelevant.
I love Braylon Allen, but if you still have Ramondre, I think like Bucky Irvine or Marshawn Lloyd.
You want to pair him with somebody who's a little bit faster.
Yeah.
If we want to double up on tackle, I know a lot of people like Dominic Puny. I think Christian Jones.
Is he a guard though?
He might be a guard. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like he played guard most of the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Like another guy to watch, next week at the combine here, arm length and everything.
I know a lot of people like Christian Jones. Go ahead.
I do love the idea of doubling up at tackle.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 2 picks in the next 4 here, so you don't have to take one first. But I do love that idea a lot at some point here.
I'd even mix safety in here, but there's nobody that really, maybe Ty Keysmith, but there's nobody at this point that really stands out to me.
Taylor Demerson is like a pure free safety.
Is he?
I'm
honestly not super familiar with him. Tell me.
He had a pretty good week at the Shrine Bowl, actually. So, but yeah.
I mean, 3-year starter. Love that.
Yeah. I just kind of got familiar with him at the Shrine Bowl. So that would probably be like the safety option, but
okay. And then I'm just going to do defense. I'm just going to do defensive front all in one because they label guys weird. I mean, if we want to go defensive lineman, I really like Dwayne Carter. Yeah. Ebiogi, I think it is, from Alabama, had a good week. I really like Muhammad Kamara.
Yeah.
He had a big week at the Shrine Bowl. He's got a lot of nasty in his game. Great motor, gets to the quarterback. Nelson Caesar had a pretty good Senior Bowl week. And then it probably drops off at that point. But all right, so we've got options here, Brian. We've got options. What are you thinking?
Lots of options. Jeez, I don't know. I definitely like taking another tackle with one of these 2 picks, and I'd maybe wait till 104. So then that opens you up either, and there were a lot of tight ends still available, so I might wait there. But so I don't know. Maybe you could work in a defender here. Honestly,
Well, remember, we can also move back from one of these
we
picks.
could.
We have that
Yeah.
option. We're getting a call from the 125 is a little too far to move back.
Yeah.
I don't love Cade Stover here. Edge guy, like I don't think you can go wrong, but I don't necessarily love anything. Look, Marshawn Lloyd here, I think, would make a lot of sense. Marshawn Lloyd or Bucky Irving, honestly.
Yeah, I like
think
both
would
of
make
those
a lot of
guys.
sense here. I think getting a speed back to pair with Ramondre Stevenson makes a ton of sense. It's definitely a need. The other position we didn't look at, did any corners fall? I mean, Jarvis Brownlee looked really good at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
If we want to just go get a second boundary corner, that I feel like they're going to do in free agency, though. That I feel like is going to be a veteran opposite Christian Gonzalez. Look at those edge guys again. I mean, I like these two guys. I really do.
Do you think one of them might fall to 136?
Ebiogi might. In reality, I don't know if he will on this, but he might in reality. Between these three guys, one probably will.
Yeah, I'd be down to go back, tackle, and then try to get one of those edge guys at 136.
All right, so who did we like, Bucky Irving or Marshawn Lloyd?
I'd probably slightly lean Bucky, but it's not a big enough gap where if you really like Marshawn Lloyd, I would overrule you.
Do we want to? So I think Bucky Irving is a better pair for Ramondre Stevenson, but I think if we're drafting under the idea that we're not going to re-sign Ramondre, we want our new feature back. I think Lloyd's more of a feature back.
Okay.
So do you have a feeling on that? Do we go to the GM in the chat?
I mean, if you like Lloyd like longer term like that and to have a bigger role, I'm down to go that route.
All right, let's go. I'm trying to think, are there coaching connections for USC or Oregon right now for them that we might be missing?
I don't think so, because it
I don't
was
think so either.
Tyler Hughes, the receivers coach was Washington.
Washington. Highsmith is Miami.
The other assistant, the defensive assistant was UNC.
Yeah.
And then like some local schools. So yeah, not really any ties there.
All right. So we want Marshawn Lloyd?
Yep. I'll write him in.
All right. So write him in.
Back to back USC player.
You want to take Bucky Irving right here at 104?
Evan would disintegrate in front of us.
Yeah, I know. No, Evan said today he wants to pay a running back.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Let's here, I'll pull this up. Who's our other friend we're hearing from tonight?
I got it.
LinkedIn. Okay, so let's hear from our other friend, then we'll reset and we'll go from there.
Go to day 3.
This show is brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you want to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It can be a pain, right, finding people for jobs, but LinkedIn Jobs definitely makes it easy. It's not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the very best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. It's so easy. See how many easies are in there? They're right. So many easies. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/beat, B-E-A-T. That's linkedin.com/beat, B-E-A-T. To post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so let's reset the board, and then there's a little spoiler up there, but I have a little pitch for you. All right, so we took Jaden Daniels first round. Drake May went second overall. Stuck with the quarterback. Traded, didn't we? We traded down, right, from 2?
Oh, I didn't write that in.
Oh, okay. We traded
first one of the year. We're working through it.
Yeah, it's all good. So we traded. Do you remember what we traded?
Number
we traded down to 40
for number 40 and like 101, wasn't it? I
And
think.
101. Yep. And then we took Kingsley there. So moved down to add some picks, got our tackle, and then we kind of got screwed on a one run at wide receiver. But we still end up with Brendan Rice, who I do think is a solid prospect. And then continuing with the theme of adding to the offense, we added a running back at the end of the third round there with the pick we picked up the trade. How are you feeling so far about our draft?
I like it. I mean, you hit the three big positions of need, obviously quarterback, offensive tackle, and wide receiver. And then you add another kind of offensive game changer there out of the backfield with Marshawn Lloyd. So this is what we all want, right? Like hammer the offense in the draft, rebuild this thing through the draft. So I think that's a good start.
Okay, so I've got a pitch for you here. So
Okay, let's hear it.
These two picks are, this is from the Broncos, 114 and 122, which is worth,
let's pull the draft back up.
That's worth 48. 104 is worth 33. So we've got to slightly close the gap of 33 to 48 is 15. Our fifth round pick is worth 16. So that actually more than closes the gap. Getting 146, they don't have a fifth round pick. We're sixth round pick, which kind of kills us here.
I have an idea how to maybe get a fifth round pick later.
How?
Mr. Mac Jones.
Yeah, but I want to do the right trade. I want to do a fair trade.
Oh, okay.
Within this trade.
These numbers aren't adding up.
No, unless we actually, this works on the chart. I don't know if it will work in here, but this works on the chart. 2 fourths and a future fourth for a fourth and a fifth.
I'd do that. I'd move down a few spots.
So we're going to have a gap between 122 and 182. Actually, we picked up a future fourth earlier.
You could use one of those then to trade back up.
Yeah. So this is what, 2 fourths and a fifth for a fourth and 2 fifths.
Yeah, I'd do that.
This in theory should work. Let's try this. I wish they had a pick in hang on. Does anybody have 2 picks coming up? Cardinals, Chargers, Titans. Actually, hang on. The Jaguars, call it Jaguars, have 115, 117. And this is a little bit higher. So I'll throw on a future fifth for this. This is the trade I wanted to make. This right here.
115, 117, 152.
Actually, the other one we can do that's actually a little bit easier. Where are the Chicago Bears? Oh, it would be taking the rest of their draft.
Wow, they got nothing outside of one.
They're not going to do that.
No, well, they'll get something for Fields probably, but
right. I feel like I'm missing another team that has 2 picks, but I don't think so.
I mean, I like either of those because I feel like there's whoever you want probably at 104 here is probably going to get to 115 or 111, and then you move up from 136, but then you still add that pick, so you're not waiting 70 spots in between your next one. So I'm down for either of those.
This right here with the Jags, so it's 104 and 136. So we're moving down 11 spots. We're then moving up 20 spots, and we're basically getting a fifth for next year's fifth.
Yeah, I'm for it.
All right, let's do that. That should work. Sometimes you just there we go. Sometimes you got to call them back and be like, please, and they do it. So because we still want another tackle, we still want an edge and a tight end, and I think if those are the next 3 picks here, we're in really good shape. So let's see who goes. More run on wide receiver. There goes Bucky Irving. Cade Stover went. So this is where I'd start to get nervous and take the tight end.
I like Sinnott. I like all those guys, honestly.
I do too. I think it's kind of what we want. Like Theo Johnson is that big, traditional tight end.
Really impressed with Theo Johnson in the Senior Bowl because he didn't get a lot of targets or receptions in that Penn State offense, but he was pretty impressive. As a big guy, he can move a little bit at that spot. So
right.
Holker impressed. I just think back to the Colorado game earlier in the year. He had a really good game, and then Sinnott is like that versatility. He can move all around, really good blocker, which, you know, AVP might be kind of drawn to at that spot. So I like all those guys, honestly.
So again, it's what do we want? Do we want a true tight end, a true like big Y tight end, a big Y tight end who maybe plays more like a move tight end, a true move tight end who's like a hybrid receiver, or a true move tight end who's more of a hybrid fullback?
I honestly think with Van Pelt, they might prefer Sinnott just because of his blocking ability.
So I'm looking at the board right now. I think Bell or Johnson would be the guys we have to take now. Sinnott. So maybe we wait. Maybe we wait and see what happens elsewhere. Because we know we have options. Like, we don't have a ton of options at tackle if we want to double up. Christian Jones would make a ton of sense right here. I mean, we have options here too. I guess Javon Foster would make sense. Rosengart would make sense. Maybe this is where we take the edge guy. Maybe this is where we go edge.
Both of them are still there.
I mean, I really like Muhammad Kamara. I like Caesar. Do you have an opinion on these three, or?
I'm most familiar with Kamara. I think he was really impressive during the year. I mean, going back to that Colorado game, right? Because that's the one probably most people watch. Like, he wrecked havoc, and then he got kicked out, right? You talk about that nastiness that he can provide. So, and he had a really good week at the Shrine Bowl too. So, out of those three, I'd probably lean Kamara.
All right, so let's go Kamara here. Agree?
Yep.
Right, and you just kind of talked about him. I mean, highly productive player. Highly productive player. I think he's like third in the nation in pressures this year behind Latu Latu, and I forget who the other guy is. He's a top 100 pick. Incredible motor. Now, that goes both ways. Sometimes it's definitely beneficial, and he's around the ball and plays you wouldn't expect, especially when the play's away from him, a weak side defensive end. You wouldn't expect him to be in the play, and he's there, but he also does overrun things at times. But just his skill set, his motor, his physical strength. He's also on the smaller side. He's 6'1", 250. If he was 6'4" and playing at a Power 5 school, he'd be a top 20 pick. Now, he's not. He can't teach height. But he's a guy I look at, like, if they're going to move on from Josh Uche, maybe you sign a veteran to hedge your bets, but could he step into that Josh Uche role maybe by like Halloween? I don't think that would be much of a stretch.
Yeah.
So I think they need an edge rusher. You get an edge rusher there. Now your guy Taylor Demerson's at the top of the board here, Brian. So he's an option. Do we go back-to-back defense? Do we go back to the tackle? Do we go back to the tight end?
I'd still really like a second tackle, just with the uncertainty at that whole position. And like Christian Jones and did Javon Foster? Oh no, there was only one pick.
No, we've got Christian Jones, Javon Foster. And there's other guys here too. I apologize, I'm scrolling. Isaiah Adams, Walter Roost, Roger Rosengarten,
Jones and Foster, kind of. Two other Senior Bowl guys, really. Like Javon Foster, I thought had a really awesome week, really good in one-on-ones, just, really good hands when he got his hands on you, the rep was basically over. And then Christian Jones, and with Foster, he was a left tackle. Christian Jones, left and right versatility at Texas, like more of that bigger kind of tackle that might fit more of like their kind of downhill stuff. So I like either of those guys, and I think that would be a good double up either of them with Sumatoa there in our second tackle.
So I personally like Jones if we want to find a third tackle. If we want to find like a solid, like maybe spot start here and there, but like he's going to be a solid backup tackle. Foster, I think the floor is a little lower, but the ceiling is much higher. I think he has potential starter potential. With Jones, the penalties are an issue. I could go either way. Are we throwing this one to the final say?
Sure, let's go to the chat on this one.
All right. Whoever gets 5 responses first, Christian Jones, Javon Foster starting now. Christian Jones from Texas, Javon Foster from Missouri. Yeah, now we wait. All right, we got 1 for Foster. 2 for Foster. This might be a no-brainer.
Foster.
4, 5. Wow, all right. So, okay. Nobody wanted Christian Jones.
I don't even see, there's no Jones at all.
That was final say, fist to the table. Javon Foster, damn it. All right, Brian, tell us about Javon Foster.
We shouldn't have even had to ask.
Oh, there's one. There's one for Christian Jones. All right. So it's like, I think 13-1.
So what pick was that? 117?
117. Yeah. Javon Foster. You type it in. So Javon Foster, let me get a size here. 6'5", 319. Like Brian mentioned, 3-year starter at left tackle for Missouri. I think it was a 4-year starter at left tackle for Missouri. Team captain, really made big strides this year. And again, we're just following my mock draft. Because it's if I just wrote about this guy. Actually, hang on, I want to pause that. Okay, Christian Jones went 2 picks later.
Okay.
I really good size, moves well. It's going to be about the technique in marrying the hands to the feet. I think that's probably the biggest hole in his game right now, as he gets caught off balance too often. If you can clean that up, I do think I think at the very least, if you clean it up on a basic level, right? On a basic level, I think he can be a starting right tackle in the NFL. Left tackle, you're probably going to need to go a step beyond that. But yeah, big guy, long arms, mean streak, experienced. It's just going to be, he's got to put some weight on. He's got to put some muscle on and just shoring up that technique a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, he's got what, like 34 and a half, 35-inch arms. We'll get the exact one again next week, but just like the size.
So the Senior Bowl, I have it here, is 35-inch
yeah,
arms.
so he's got some big arms on him. So exactly what you want out there. So you mentioned like high ceiling. So maybe if in a perfect world you walk out of this and you have Javon Foster as your left tackle and Sumatoa as your franchise right tackle, and you can walk off into the sunset with Jaden Daniels, get well protected. But I think those are two good guys to add to the line, kind of no matter what happens in free agency and with Micah Windu over the next month or so.
Okay, so here's what I think we do here. We talked about there's some tight ends we like, and the safeties we liked are gone. Demerson went and Tyke Smith went. None of the tight ends have gone. We're at 128. So we're about like 25, 28, 38, 48. Yeah, we have like 25-ish picks until we go again. If they start running on the tight ends, I think we move back up. Yeah, but we'll see. Maybe we get lucky and somebody falls. We're good for now. Still good heading into the 5th round. There goes your boy Braylon Allen. That's low for Braylon. All right, so there goes Sinnott. But we're less than 10 picks away, so I think we're in okay shape. Joe Milton. Joe Milton of the Raiders. I love that so much. I have no idea if that would work, but I love that so much. Shaw Wade Smith, by the way, guy played super well at the Senior Bowl.
College Washington, awesome Shrine Bowl guy too.
Yeah. Jordan, that's really high for Jordan Travis. And having him and Kyler makes sense together, but that's really high. Yeah, the running backs are just all going super late. So something to keep in mind. Maybe that's reality. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just this sim. And we are all right. So Ben Sinnott would have been nice. I like Holker. I think he's kind of a unicorn. I think now, taking 2 Colorado State players is a choice.
We have 2 USC players too.
Yeah, I like Holker. I think he's unique. Theo Johnson didn't wow me. I think he's like a textbook TE2, where like he's just kind of big and he's there. But what's his carrying trait other than his size? Jaheim Bell's like, if we just want athleticism, if we're trying to do the Browns offense, and which one of these guys is the closest to why am I blanking on his name?
Njoku.
David Njoku. It's probably Jaheim Bell. Now he's a little bit smaller. What is he? He's like 6'3", 240, but he's the best athlete, I think, of this group. So that's how I break it down. I know you like Johnson. Your thoughts on that?
I like Holker too. Like, I think really reliable hands, kind of sneaky after the catch, not just because he's white, but like a actual, pretty good athlete for, some decent size on him too. And, he can, like, he's not afraid to get his nose dirty and block as well, where, maybe a Jaheim Bell is more of that athlete where he's not wanting to block as much. So I was impressed watching Holker, and I think that would be kind of a good pick. They're late. What are we, 5th round right now? So I think
yeah. And this is we're honestly kind of outside of the respecting the board range for Jaheim Bell anyway. So
yeah.
I'm good with Dalen Holker. I think he's a fun pick here. I think Jaheim Bell and Theo Johnson, like you see where they fit in the NFL. Holker to me could be out of the league in 3 or 4 years, but I think his ceiling's probably on par with Bell, maybe a little lower. It's definitely higher, I think, than Johnson. We're sitting here in the 5th round. You got to take some big swings. And I think look at all the best tight ends in the league. They're all like 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks, because sometimes teams will just find guys that are just freaks, because that position being a freak, it's like being an edge rusher or a safety an edge rusher or a safety. Like sometimes being a freak, it just translates. So, I mean, you're tweeting us out, Brian, not me. You're going to get ripped for the 2 Colorado State guys. But I think we got 2 good players. What'd you say?
I'm tagging you, so you're going to get the mentions too.
Do you at least have the blue check so you get the replies? You'll get paid for them?
Oh no, I do not.
Oh, maybe I'll tweet it then. All right, let's take Dalen Holker though here at 152.
And you want to pause and we can look at the board or look at everyone.
We'll reset the board and maybe if we want to make another trade or something. Oh, I wanted James Williams. I was hoping he'd fall a little bit. That would have been a fun one. Safety from Miami, just with the Alonzo Highsmith connection.
All right, so let's go over. This is what we're working with through 5 rounds now. Here we got our quarterback in the 1st round with Jaden Daniels after Caleb Williams and Drake May went 1-2. 2nd round, we moved down a bit, picked up basically another top 100 pick right outside there with 101. And then we still got a tackle with Kingsley Sumatoa. There were a couple, intriguing ones on the board, but we went with Kingsley there. Round 3, we again picked up an extra pick. We went 2 USC skill position players, Brendan Rice, Marshawn Lloyd. Round 4, we traded down again, but we also moved up, and that ended with our first defensive player in Mo Kamara. Then we doubled up with offensive tackle Javon Foster from Missouri, and then, as you just saw in round 5, picked up our tight end in Dalen Holker. So, how you feeling through kind of round 5 here?
I feel pretty good. Look, Van Pelt has talked a lot about in terms of us. So there's 2 ways to feel about it, right? In terms of the draft they're having, and are we doing things that I think mirror what the Patriots would do? Van Pelt has talked a lot about versatility and athleticism. And I think we've added guys that you can do a lot of things with on offense. We've put a premium on athleticism, things like that. I think these are all guys that really, I don't think we've taken anybody that wouldn't be on their board. The only one I wonder about is Rice, just because like if they sign Michael Pittman in 2 weeks, they're not going to take Brendan Rice.
Yeah.
So that's the only one I wonder. But everybody else here to me is like a realistic, very realistic Patriots pick. How would I feel if this was the draft? I mean, they got the quarterback. I'm over the moon. I'm not as big of a Sui Matia guy as some people. Like when we send it to the chat there, like I would have gone Patrick Paul. And then again with there was one other pick where I think I was the other way, but like these are all guys.
Were you Christian Jones over Foster?
No, I'm Foster. Maybe I'm misremembering. These are all guys outside of maybe Foster who we didn't draft with the idea he's playing year 1. These are all guys who are going to make some sort of impact year 1. They may not all be every down players. Like Mo Kamara is going to be rotational. He's probably going to have like a 40% usage rate. Holker's your 2nd tight end. You're either bringing Hunter Henry back or signing Harrison Bryant or signing, Noah Fant, and Holker's 2nd, but he's your 2nd tight end. Like he's going to play. He's not going to ride the bench. That's what I look for in a draft in the situation the Patriots are at. I don't want long-term projects. That doesn't mean you can't take project players, but I don't want a guy who's so raw he can't play year 1. And I think all of these guys have a certain floor that will allow them to have some sort of role in year 1. And that to me would be the best part of this draft.
Yep. All right. So let's head back over. So what are we at? 154.
Yeah.
If you
we're on 182, we have 2 picks left.
We're just about in range where I think the Rams picks went, but I think like Minnesota has 2 picks coming up. If you want to try trading, you think this is the area where they would trade Mac Jones? If that's they just picked Jaden Daniels. So
Well, there was a report today from Mike Reese that he still has believers in the building. Minnesota at 157 would make sense.
I think they have another one coming up. Yeah, they're again
166. Too. Honestly, the Saints
at
167 and 169 could make sense.
Because they just who'd they hire? Kubiak? He's a Shanahan type of guy.
And then the Rams have one here, and then they have another one down here at 177. Let's do this. Did any of them take quarterbacks at the top? Is there somebody who missed maybe on a quarterback? So the Vikings didn't take a quarterback. The Saints didn't take a quarterback. Where'd the quarterbacks go? So JJ McCarthy went to the Giants. Michael Penix. Okay. So the Rams took Michael Penix. So they're probably out. Who are the other teams we're looking at? The Vikings and the
Saints.
All right. So the Saints or Vikings haven't taken a quarterback yet. Here's the Rams again. Do the Saints and Vikings just have no draft picks, or am I scrolling past them?
The Saints never have draft picks.
That's a very good point. Vikings took a corner right there. The Saints have no freaking draft picks, dude. Vikings took an edge rusher. But they also could have re-signed. Well, even if they re-signed Kirk Cousins, the Vikings took a line. The Saints just don't have picks. They just took a defensive lineman, I guess. The Saints need to draft somebody because they just need affordable bodies.
All right, so
where's that other Vikings pick? I think right here at 166 makes the most sense.
Yeah, we could try that.
All right, if I can pause it on time. 66. Oh, I forgot I can do it ahead of time. 166 for Mac Jones. They don't have a future 7th. Boo. Saints have a future 7th. What is this? 160? I'll take care later.
Surprised they don't.
Apparently, this will do it. 2-6 for Mac Jones.
Why not?
This is why the Saints never have draft picks.
Okay.
All right.
So what number do we get this year? 174?
174, yeah.
Okay.
So do we want to do the RG3 Kirk Cousins thing?
And get a second quarterback?
Yeah. We can wait on that, but I would actually have a guy in mind here.
I was typing. Are there any quarterbacks available?
Yeah, hang on. There's one guy I like here, but I think he went back to school, so he shouldn't be in the simulator.
Keaton Slovis.
No. Keaton Slovis still having eligibility. Did Jason Bean declare for the draft? Oh, yeah, he was at the Shrine Bowl. I don't know why he's not on my consensus board. That's really weird.
Is he in the simulator?
He is in the simulator. So usually there's guys on the consensus board that aren't in the simulator. Yeah. We can wait on him. I don't think we need to take him in the top 200. Maybe we do. I don't know, but he makes sense. Similar kind of offense. So we haven't taken a defensive back. I think taking a defensive back would make sense. I think taking a defensive tackle would make sense. Is there anybody here that's interesting? MJ Devonshire from Pitt's kind of an interesting player. I really don't love there's a bunch of defensive backs that aren't in the system, unfortunately, that are fun players. Yeah, I don't love anybody there. Maybe there's another edge guy who we can play more as like a hand down. Not really. Tarjon Jeffcoat's a great name, though. Miles Cole had a decent Senior Bowl. Do we want to double up at receiver? Luke McCaffrey's still here. Jordan Whittington, who I like, is still here. Bryson Nesbitt is not a receiver. He's a tight end.
Isn't he going back to school?
Or is there a brother?
Oh, maybe.
No, it's not. He went back to school. Okay, so yeah, Bryson. Can we just we'll Larry Bird it? We'll draft Bryson Nesbitt's rights for next year. Top 10 pick. Yeah. Anything else stand out to you as possibilities here?
I don't know. I'd be open for adding a defensive back, but none of them really jumped out. I don't know, Luke McCaffrey double up as a receiver. Like you have your big body and Brendan Rice. Would you be interested in getting another one of those, type of move guys and bank on kind of that potential with McCaffrey?
You don't think that there's some overlap between Rice and McCaffrey?
I mean, McCaffrey isn't really like an outside guy like Rice, right? How tall is he?
He's a bigger guy, I feel like. He's 6'2", 6'2",
Oh,
195.
I didn't think he was that big. Maybe I'm just
Yeah, he's a bigger
assuming
guy.
he's kind of smaller like Christian, but
I keep going. I want to take a defensive back here. It makes a ton of
yeah.
sense. Is there
Who are the
anybody here we
corners
like?
again?
MJ Devonshire.
Is Johnny Dixon the good? I mean, it's a 5th round. Is he the? There were 2 Penn State corners, weren't there? And not
Well, did
Hardy. Kalen
Kalen
Kane, is that the other one?
King's a top 100 pick. Yeah. Johnny Dixon, we're a little past respecting the board for at this point. Daquan Hardy's the
Okay.
guy you're thinking of.
Okay.
Any thoughts?
I don't know. Maybe we should have just kept Mac Jones.
Jalen, I don't know why Jalen Green's name sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar.
Like
Maybe just
when
an
I know I
SEC
looked
team.
him up and now I'm trying to remember why. I feel like he was in the draft last year. I think that's just PFF being weird. Yeah, none of these guys really stand out. Do we want to double up at tight end? I mean, we're past the point with Jaheim Bell at this point, but Jared Wiley would make some sense. Brevin Spann-Ford would make some sense here. Eric All went back to school, PFF. Do we want an interior? Actually, do we want an interior line?
Interior. CJ
I
Hansen,
really
Holt
like Egwakon from Florida. I thought he had a really good Senior Bowl.
Yeah, he was
Can
pretty
play
impressive.
center, can play guard, gives you some depth on the interior. We didn't look at linebackers. What we got there for linebackers? I do like Jalen Ford, especially if they don't get. Okay, wait. There's some good linebackers here. We might take a linebacker if they don't get Mac Wilson back. Jalen Ford projects as a similar kind of player.
Okay.
I also like Ulufashio from Washington. He's more downhill. He can be more Juwan Bentley insurance. He can play in the kicking game. Those are a couple of good linebackers, though. It would make sense to take those guys here. And you know what? We want to take a defensive back. Ford's going to kind of be, I feel like this is probably late for respecting the board for Ford. Not entirely, though. Like, you might be able to spin it that he's like a safety. If they don't get Kyle Duggar back, right, he could do some of the things Kyle Duggar does.
Okay. I mean, I'm not too familiar with them, but you're pitching a good case here. So I don't see anyone else like really jumping out. I like the UNC linebacker, but he's not there. So yeah,
He's not there. Unless he's there as an edge guy. No, he's not.
No. Yeah, I'd be down for Ford if that's where you want to go.
Usually there's like a 6th round defensive tackle that Gabe Hall had a good Senior Bowl.
Yeah. You could probably wait on him though.
All right, we're going to go it's a little late. Let me look at where Jalen Ford's going. I want to make sure we're respecting the board with Jalen Ford here. Because on the consensus big board, he's 145. Yeah, people are taking him like the 6th, 7th round. I think that's fine. We're in the 5th. Oh, we're in the 5th. Yeah, we can take Jalen Ford here. All right, we'll take Jalen Ford. Or we could trade down and add more picks.
Let's just take Ford.
All right, we'll take Jalen Ford here. And then we wanted to add a quarterback, right? And then there was one other thing we wanted to add. Was it a corner or an interior lineman? I like the idea of adding an interior lineman.
Yep.
You're the Wisconsin guy. I mean, does Bordellini do it for you?
I like him, I was impressed with the Florida guy too during the Senior Bowl.
I would take him here.
What pick are we at? 182.
182. Although we're still not getting that secondary play, but it's just there's like nobody in the secondary that's exciting.
I
That's
don't
the thing.
mind Keaton Oladapo.
I haven't done a ton of work on him. Tell me
He's
about him.
kind of like that would be a move if you don't re-sign Kyle Duggar. He's one of those like kind of box safeties, pretty good athlete, pretty good range. Like that would be kind of the Kyle Duggar. Like, that would be like the day 3 Kyle Duggar replacement.
Okay.
So I wouldn't, but he'll probably be there. What are we at? 229 and
229.
182.
I still want to take Jason Bean though. I think closing out the draft with Jason Bean makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah,
Could you
it
trade
it
down and add
really
2?
we could try. It really falls off at corner, man.
Yeah, it
It
does.
really does, and that's something good to know. Let's see. Can we trade down? Where are we at? 182. Move down to like who do they have connections with in that front office there? We're the Packers. Packers all the way to 203. That's a little too far. Who else they have connections with in that front office? You know what? Because it's the it's the post-Belichick era. They're doing everything the opposite of Belichick. We're going to trade with the
Going to
Colts.
the Colts.
Yeah. So we'll move down 3 spots. Move down. What was that, man?
What is
move
it?
down 11 spots.
182 to 193
93
and 232.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move down. Didn't love anybody on the board. We'll see who goes here. Colts accepted it. Oh, and they took McCaffrey.
Okay.
So there you go. All right. Little bit of run on lineman there. So now I think we grab the interior guy.
Go with that.
You want the from Florida?
Yeah.
Guacon? I keep butchering.
Yeah.
That.
Is this the 6th round? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now we're going to the 7th. Now we see who goes. We appreciate everybody hanging with us the whole way. We're actually gaining people as we get into later rounds here.
I'm just putting Kingsley E because I'm not.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. This is where I think we take the quarterback and we take Jason Bean. I just think he's going to run a similar offense to the one that Jaden Daniels runs. Big arm, pushes the ball down the field, mobile, can run around a little bit. Trying to find his like rushing stats here, but I can't. But yeah, I like him. He's experienced. Yeah, I think Jason Bean's the pick here.
Yeah, go for it.
Push back on that.
No, that's good.
And then here's where I think we grab our defensive back, somebody who can play on special teams.
If Oladapo's there, I'd take him. I think that's a good pick. So I was just looking at my Senior Bowl notes. Remember,
yeah,
it was Wednesday practice. So
I don't think isn't he supposed to be like a top 150 pick?
I don't think so.
I think he's supposed to go a little higher than this.
Remember, it was the Wednesday Senior Bowl, so one of the teams ended with like the one-on-ones.
Yeah.
He went against the Minnesota tight end and he like knocked away the ball in coverage. And that's one of his things. Like he's the box safety like Kyle Duggar, but he's supposed to be a little bit better in coverage against tight ends.
You know, I'm looking at it. Most of the mocks have him going in the 7th round. He's skewed by one guy that took him in the 2nd. So we'll if I get yelled at for not respecting the board.
That was Mr. Oladapo who took him.
Right, exactly. All right. And that's that. So I'm going to stop sharing this because if you guys see the PFF grades, you yell about nonsense because they're all terrible. So while I get this set, why don't you pull up the final board there and we'll take a look at it. Or here I can. There we go.
Just adding Oladapo, Oregon State. All right.
So run us through
it. We start off. Jaden Daniels, again, Caleb Williams went 1 to Chicago. Drake May goes 2 to the Commanders. So we get our quarterback of the future in Jaden Daniels. Move on to round 2. Slight trade back down the board. Pick up basically another top 100 pick at 101. We liked the tackles. There were a handful of tackles still at 34. So we thought that was worthwhile to do so. And then we still got one of the guys we liked in Kingsley Sumatoa at 40. On to round 3, 2 USC playmakers. We get our wide receiver and Brendan Rice, assuming the Patriots don't get one of these big body X receivers in free agency. So we get Rice, and then we get a running back, Marshawn Lloyd, who will make a good complement to Ramondre Stevenson in that backfield, more of a speed back. Moving on to round 4. We trade down and we also move up in the process, and we get our first defender edge, Muhammad Kamara, out of Colorado State, just a really like kind of violent, nasty pass rusher. Good guy to add in the mix there. And then we double dip offensive tackle Javon Foster, pretty good, really good length at the position and a pretty high ceiling at that tackle spot. Staying offense again, round 5, we get our tight end and Dallin Holker. And then we move Mac Jones in round 6. That was to Minnesota, or that might have been round 5. Actually, I might have the number wrong there, but move Mac Jones there on day 3, pick up another pick, and we use that on linebacker Jalen Ford from Texas. And then we traded yet again, and we kind of shored up some depth on the offensive line with Kingsley. Still don't know how to say his last name. Interior lineman from Florida. He can play center. He can play the guard spots. And then we double dip at quarterback with Jason Bean and a kind of versatile box safety and Keaton Oladapo to close it off. So what are your thoughts on the draft?
Yeah, I thought, again, we got a lot of guys that are going to be impact players year one. Or not impact players, but I think we realized a lot of guys are going to be factors year one, a couple of impact players. I like where we doubled up. I think we hit on a lot of things. My one question would be, like, this is kind of banking on them making a big splash at wide receiver in free agency. If they do that, I feel really good about this draft. If not, I still don't know if you have quite enough. But I mean, I would say this is a solid draft. I think that there are opportunities to do better, but they could certainly do a lot worse. We came out, I think, with a couple of future picks too, or at least one future pick. So
yeah,
I mean, I think this would be a solid draft. I think this would be like a solid B draft.
Yep. We definitely missed the run at wide receivers. That went fast, where, you missed out on maybe a Roman Wilson or one of the Washington guys. And then I think we both would have liked to add a corner at some point, maybe early or late on day 3, but that run, we kind of missed that run too. So maybe those were 2 spots going forward that we could improve on. But I think, I'm with you in that B range. I think it's solid.
So again, next time we do this, we'll do it, post free agency. We'll kind of have a better idea of what the roster looks like. That will certainly help. But if we want to take a couple quick comments from the chat on what they thought on what we did. Somebody said wide receivers to be in the second. Somebody brought up Rasheen Ali. I liked him, but he tore his shoulder. He's probably UDFA at this point. I mean, we could sign him as a UDFA probably at this point, and that would be a good signing. Anybody else? Any other thoughts on the draft? I think they all devolved into their own mock drafts. Somebody really liked the Oladapo pick, so there you go.
Someone was really trying to get me to take a kicker.
Yeah,
I just not have heard Jeremy Springer's press conference yesterday and realized that Chad Ryland is back, but I don't think they're going to draft a kicker again. That would be surprising.
Yeah. So somebody said we didn't take Dylan Laube. It didn't work with where we were at.
Yeah.
Brownlee went early. Brownlee went, I think, late day 2, early day 3. So he was off the board. We talked about him at one point, but we just had more pressing needs. I think that was when we were in those back-to-back picks with 101 and 104. I think we had talked about taking him there, but Marshawn Lloyd and Mo Kamara are going to do more for you at this point than Jason Brownlee is. You have Christian Gonzalez on one side. You just bring in a veteran, 1 year, $10 million. Maybe it's Steph Gilmore to play on the other side, and you're in great shape there. And then with Jonathan Jones as well. So I like Jason Brownlee as a player. I'm not necessarily upset we didn't get him. I think there's always guys that are good picks, but can you make a better pick, right? Jason Brownlee would have been a good pick where we talked about him, but I think we made better picks.
Yep. Ryan said cornerback and tight end are more of a need than this draft shows. I think we just kind of said we would have liked to add maybe a late round corner, and someone mentioned Cam Hart. I like Cam Hart in that range, maybe as a late round guy, but tight end, it's like you either move back in round 1 for Brock Bowers, or, we thought about Jatavian Sanders at 40 or maybe moving up. But if you miss on those 2 guys, like, you're probably in that range that we picked Dallin Holker with one of those, Ben Sinnott, Theo Johnson, like that's the next kind of group. So I don't know. I think it's either Bowers and Sanders or you're kind of waiting at that tight end position.
It's just not as deep of a tight end draft where you either have to attack it or you wait and you see who falls to you. There's no real kind of in the middle. I'd agree on corner too. Again, we got to the point where the board we tried. the board evaporated real quick, and you don't take a player just to take a player.
Yeah.
And that's one where, again, it'll be easy after, let's say we go through the free agency, they sign 2 great tight ends. We probably emphasize taking a corner more. Whereas, you assign L'Jarius Sneed, we come back and always going to talk about us not taking a corner. So, that's kind of where I'm at with that. But you're not going to be able to get everybody you need in this draft just with the way the roster's at. But I think we were able to get a good foundation. Like, I think Jaden Daniels is a potential foundational piece. Suamati is obviously a potential foundational piece. I think Mo Kamara can be on defense. I even think Holker, he's probably a little further away than some of those other guys, but could he become a foundational tight end? Yeah, I think that's possible. So we got some guys that I think you look at and you say, all right, these are guys we can build around for at least the next 4 years and hopefully beyond that. And that to me is what they need to do in this kind of draft.
Yep. Yeah, going quarterback, offensive tackle, wide receiver, first 3, that seems like kind of the money picks in some order of those. So we hit those there. So any last thoughts you got, or we can?
No, we got to get going because the dynasty is going to drop soon. So
I know. Oh, we have dynasty and Bruins. It's a packed night. So so we'll get out of here. Again, that was Mock Draft 1.0. One of us will post it on Twitter, probably me. So if you want to come and yell at us again, even more on there, feel free to do that. My Twitter is at I am Brian Hines. Head over patspulpit.com. I have tons of stuff up there from all the press conferences yesterday. Alex's Twitter is at Real Alex Barth. He doesn't have it up, but at Real Alex Barth, head over to 985thesportshub.com to read his work. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in to our first mock draft. We will be back next week, probably talking about the combine as we get ready for that. So tune into that, and we will see you guys then. Bye.
Bye.